Alright, so it is an introduction to biology with characteristics of living things. It's in line with the CSEC biology syllabus. It is probably the first course. If for some schools you'll be doing this in grade 9, for others you'll be doing it at grade 10. So we're going to be looking at, these are the objectives for the day. We're going to be trying to define biology, explain the concept of characteristics of living things, and we are going to be looking at, we're going to try to define characteristic of living things, and also we're going to be listing the 7 characteristics of living things. So the first question we have to answer, and I do hope that you are with me, you're not falling asleep, is what's biology? Let's try to figure it out. Now we could look at the word bio, and we could look at the word logy. Bio means life or living. Logy means study of. Hence biology could simply be said that it is the study of living things, or study of the living, or study of life. Wonderful, we're doing well. Now, living things are also referred to as organisms, and in your textbook or throughout this lesson you might hear me saying living things rather than to use, you might hear me saying organisms rather than living things, but they are used interchangeably and they mean pretty much the same, but you must ensure that you're familiar with both terms. Alright, can you name some living things? Usually when I ask this question, persons usually go for the popular things: cat, dog, rat, you name it, a mango tree, apple trees, you name that type of thing. But what we need to remember is that living things go way beyond the limitations of our eyes. And I started out like you would have. For plants, mango tree, coconut, apple. But what about mosses, ferns, pines? And when you look at dog, lizard, fish, frog, birds, and I went with that list because most persons would have known this from, I think, about GSAT. A dog is a mammal, a lizard is a reptile, a fish, Pisces, and frog, amphibian, and that type of thing. I think everyone would have known that, so I decided to give you that list. But what about the centipede? The centipede, I'm not sure what the centipede here. What do we know about this organism? Yes, it's the same little organism that we call 40 leg. If you're bitten by it, you have to go to the doctor. It is a carnivorous arthropod. Alright, characteristics of things. Now I'm not talking about living things. I'm talking about the characteristic of anything. What does it mean when you refer to the characteristic? Let's look at what is said here. To explain it, and this is no dictionary definition, it means this condition, the same characteristic, is always present to make that particular thing true to its form. I wanted to look at sex and gender pretty much for this explanation, but being that this is an international room, so to speak, I think I'd prefer not to. So I went for the police station. So let's look at this example. For a police station to be true to its form, it must have a number of things. And you will agree with me, if it's a police station, it's going to have police, it's going to have guns, it's going to have records of complaints, it's going to have holding area, and will remain in its fixed position for a long time. Some person might be wondering why sir had to say remain in its fixed position for a long time. But if you are in Jamaica, you would have known about the states of emergency. You have several checkpoints on the road. Now, of course, you'll have police there. Of course, they will have guns, and they might have little records. But while some of the characteristics here are satisfied, if all the characteristics are not satisfied, then it means that it is not true to form. So as such, the checkpoints that we have on the road for the Zozo in Jamaica, they are not police station. And I hope you understand the analogy, right? All the conditions are not satisfied at the checkpoint to make it a police station. We don't have fixed buildings there that are going to be there for a long time. We might have the others, but they are going to move as time go by. Now, all these would be characterized. All these would characterize a police station. Hence, a police station checkpoint at the side of a road cannot be considered a police station, as it lacks some of the characteristic of a police station. So you can't be a living thing and you have some of the characteristics and you really don't have others. I could speak about a motor car now. A motor car has an engine with fuel inside burning, right? Now it's releasing energy. To easily put that is respiration. The car can move. You might talk about locomotion. That if you were supposed to touch some smart car, they would make some noise. That is irritability. And one might say the car can feed because it takes in petrol. But can a car grow? No, a car can't grow. Some person are going to tell me about robot and transformer, but then you have to get back to the real definition as to what is growth. So in order for anything to satisfy or to become true to its form, it must satisfy all the characteristics, all the conditions. So when we talk about characteristic of living things, we are saying all these conditions are always present. If one is absent, then it is not a living thing. Now let's look at the things that are needed for anything to be considered a living thing. Wow, we may need a reminder of this. Now, it is also true that all living things have features in common, and these features we refer to them as the characteristics, which are used to classify them as living or once living. One might ask, why once living? Because when you ask students to, in some cases, to classify living things, you're asking them to distinguish between living and non-living, or to give examples of living and non-living, you might find a student saying a live dog and a dead dog. But the dead dog was once living, so the dead dog would not be among the things that we want to classify as non-living organism. We'll probably consider a stone as non-living organism because a stone at no point grew. Right? So we have to be careful with that. I like to tell my students that things that were once living, in some cases we want to consider them somewhat among the group of living things. Yes, it has passed on, but we really don't want to classify it as being non-living. Alright? Now, there are 7 characteristics of living things. Do you know any? Try and remember, man. Any? You came up with one? Alright, let's look at it. Now, look at the mnemonics and see how best it can help you. Now, we have 2. We have reminder and we have red Nima. Right? Look at the letters, and for the greater part, each of these letters represent a word that makes up the characteristic of living things. Let's go down. So R, and I'm seeing R aspire. I'm wondering what that means. Think about it. Let's look at the other one while you think. E, they are saying that little common E there is used just as a filler of space. Then you have M, movement, locomotion. I, irritability, sensitivity. N, I wonder if this means nutrition. D, development or growth, I think. Well, I think I'm figuring it out now. And I think the last one there might be excretion. Let me look at the other page to see what's happening. Are you with me? Remember, at any time you can stop this video, you can rewind, you can make your notes, and remember, you can send me some comment to ask questions or whatever, so that we can have the lesson going with you understanding clearly. All right, so let's write out the 7 characteristics of living things. Number 1, respiration. Wow, the clue was there. Number 2, movement / locomotion. Number 3, irritability / sensitivity. The word there is irritability / sensitivity. Nutrition, development and growth, or development / growth. Development, growth, pretty much the same thing you are getting. We're going to be looking at that in a bit. Excretion. What's missing? The last one is going to be reproduction. So let's go through that again. Number 1 is going to be respiration. Number 2 is going to be movement / locomotion. Number 3 is going to be irritability / sensitivity. Number 4 is going to be nutrition. Number 5, development / growth. Number 6, excretion. And 7, reproduction. Let's move on. Now, what do we know about these characteristics? Let's look at respiration. What's respiration? No, I did not say perspiration. I said respiration. No, let's try again. I did not say breathing. I said respiration, not breathing and not perspiration. Please get it right. It is respiration. So let's look at what's respiration. It's a process by which cells of living organisms release energy from food they consume. Now, while it is said here consume, I'd prefer to say for plants from the food they make. Let's look at that. This may be, respiration may be aerobic or aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. I really don't want to get into these, as we are going to be going into them as we get deeper into the syllabus. I want you to just become familiar with words. But I want you to do some reading for yourself. I want you to outline the importance of respiration. Remember, all living things carry out respiration. Once it was living, then it means that it was once respiring. Now, I did something for you at home. I got a plastic bag and I tied onto a plant we refer to, I taped it onto a plant we refer to as coffee rose. Now, if you look at your picture here, you can see small water droplets in the bag. Now, the sole purpose of this experiment was supposed to prove that respiration is taking place. Now, respiring organism will give off water as a byproduct of respiration. Once the organism is respiring, then it's going to give off water. Let's look at what happens at home. I went to the market today and I got myself some scallion. I had it in a plastic bag. I bought a dry bundle of scallion. I had it in a plastic bag, and by the time I got home, the plastic bag was all wet. That is evidence that the scallion is still alive and it was respiring. So usually what we do, because this water might cause the scallion to spoil, we would store the scallion in somewhat an absorbent, a bag that will be absorbing the water, example a paper bag, so that we can have some amount of longevity when it gets into the refrigerator. Now identify an example of a statement below. Can you think about a simple experiment like the one we did on the plant for human that would prove that water is given off during the process of respiration? What would you do? Answer: water coming through the nostril when we breathe. That would be an example of respiration, water being given off. And we could test this simply by putting a mirror to the nostril. We usually call somewhat a smear test. You put a mirror to your nostril and you'll see what some person, it is smeared by the water droplets coming from the nostril. Movement / locomotion. The whole idea around these two seems to be a little elusive for a number of persons. The interpretation of these words, of course, may differ slightly, and I'll show you why. Movements that change in position of part of the body. The body does not usually change position, that is its position. So if you are standing where you are and you want to reach above your head, you lift your hand above your head. That is a good example of movement, right? If you stood where you are and you turn the body left and turn the body right, that's an example of movement. Now, a mango tree will remain where it is planted. This is a term, the term movement is a term that is usually used correctly when referring to plants. Why this is said, it is because plants will not displace their entire body. Somebody is going to talk about banana being a rhizome and ginger being a rhizome, and they are moving from where they were planted. But it won't walk away, right? It won't walk away. So for that reason, we say that plants tend to move while animal can both move and locomote. So an animal running from here to there or flying from here to there, then we would say that this animal, of course, would have locomoted. Now, locomotion involves the total displacement of the body as seen when an animal changes its position. So locomotion, the animal might want to go and find food, the animal might want to go and find water, the animal might want to go and find mate. So of course, locomotion will take place. In some cases, the animal might very well just be trying to escape danger. But the same animal could just stay at its position and move because it turns its head around to look, it lowers its head to have some food or something like that. So the animal will both do movement and locomotion. However, the movement term is really a term that is mostly used for the plants because the plants won't get up and walk or fly or run or that type of thing. It stays right where it is planted. Somebody remember the Minister of Education, I think it was Ronnie Tweet, who said that you are supposed to grow where you are planted. What that meant for him is that you should not try to move to another school, right? Just stay right there. Now, movement and locomotion. I have a little video here I did in the back of my yard. I saw some chicken. These are really friendly chicken. They come to look for me every day, it seems. The chicken locomote in the video, which is a form of movement. So locomotion, of course, is a form of movement. Plants show movement in growth. So if you want to know if a plant is growing, I don't know how many persons would have known what we call a weed whacker or a lawn mower. We have to use these equipment because the grass continues to grow. Alright? And in some cases, there are some plants that have sensitive response mechanism, like the mimosa, shame old lady plant. If you were supposed to touch this plant, then the plant would naturally close its leaf. Animals move by flying, running, swimming, and crawling. I do hope that you are with me, and remember, at any time in your video, you could always go back. You can play over and over and over to get it right. Read your textbook, listen to your teacher to ensure that you are ahead of a class. Now let's look at movement with these chickens. So here we have mother hen, and these are the two chickens, and if you observe, they are moving. Now they are moving in search of food. Based on what's happening here, it suggests that they are in search of food. Wonderful. Nutrition. Now plants, they don't feed like animals do. Plants would extend their leaves or modify their stem so that they can capture as much sunlight and carbon dioxide as possible to make their food. Alright, so we have the chicken there again, and if you listen, I want you to listen to this because we're coming to another video and you are going to realize, oh wow, you heard that sound from the chicken. Alright, that is irritability. They are a little restless because I'm in the area trying to do a video. So they are really impatient. They really don't want me to be there. So they are moving away. So irritability, before I get there, is pretty much your ability to respond to a change in your environmental condition. So let's get back to nutrition. Nutrition is the process by which organisms obtain food / nutrient. Plants make their own food through a process known as photosynthesis. Hence, they are classified as autotroph. Now, animals have to depend on other organisms for food. Hence, they are classified as heterotrophic organisms. All these will be further explained as we go deeper into the syllabus. Now, just now I spoke about irritability with the chicken trying to move away from me because somewhat I might have threatened its safety, so the chicken pretty much moved away. Now if you look here at this piece of stick, here we have a lizard, and we are going to be having that same type of experience. As I go closer to him with the camera, you'll observe that he moves away because there's a change in his external environment. As there's a change in the environment, as such he got himself out of the way. Pay attention. Wow, there we go. He was saying to himself, hey, I can't have any more of this gentleman. It seems as if he is planning on invading my space. I'm going to take cover and protect myself. Alright, so irritability / sensitivity. This is the ability that an organism possesses that will allow it to respond to a stimulus. Now a stimulus is a change in external condition, or it's a change in the environment. That's what a stimulus is. You could pretty much have a stimulus on the inside, but in this case we're looking at the stimulus as to the fact that I was within his space, so he moved away in order to protect himself. You may be able to relate to the mimosa plant. That's a sensitive plant, and that plant will respond to stimulus. If you were supposed to touch the plant would close its leaf. I'm very proud of you guys. I think you are doing well. You should give yourself a round of applause. Do you want to get yourself a cup of water before I move on? That would be fine. All right. So we have a fence in the photo here, and we have a plant that we have just pruned. So we have this fence, newly erected fence, and if you observe this plant called a corallilla, it is all growing on the fence, up on the fence, covering the fence. This is a sign of growth. And this plant was recently cut back, and it too is showing some sign of growth. Look at the video.
Living things do grow. Recently I had cut back this plant, and if you observe here, we're having signs of new growth. So right here we're seeing signs of new growth. We are seeing signs of new growth. So just like animals, so too plants grow.
All right. So our next topic is going to be excretion. Excretion is the removal of metabolic waste from the organism. I want you to pay keen attention to this word here, the word metabolic, because if this word is not in your definition, then automatically your definition for excretion would not be accepted. Now, there's also something I want to point out here. Feces is not a metabolic waste. Feces is not a metabolic waste. So when we talk about excretion, and we're going to give an example of products that are excreted, feces is not one of those products. But let us look at some products that are excreted from organisms. Now, from the plants, you would have oxygen and carbon dioxide. Many persons oxygen, yes, the plant gives off oxygen, and the plants take in carbon dioxide in order to make glucose. Now, animals, they are giving off carbon dioxide, and they are also giving off heat. Many of us can relate to the fact of being a little overheated. It doesn't mean that you want to have a fight. It means that the temperature is a little up. Right, so you're giving off some amount of heat in order to cool the body. Now, reproduction is the production of offspring by an organism. Reproduction could be either sexual or asexual. Now, sexual reproduction is going to require the fusion of male and female gamete, or what we call sex cell, the sperms and the egg had it been animal. Right, and then in plants now, some plants will propagate sexually, while some will propagate asexually. And of course, we remember Dolly the sheep as it relates to asexual reproduction. Now, this method, asexual, this method does not require sex cells, usually require only a part of a parent. Please ensure that you read, please ensure that you go over this video to ensure that you have it, what we would say in Jamaica, have it locked. Now, reproduction in plants and animals. Here I have a little cucumber plant, and you can see it flowering. This here is a sign of reproduction. Alright, so I went outside and I tried to get as many videos as possible for you so that you could follow the lesson. Now, on this side, the fact that the hen has chickens, it suggests that the hen has reproduced, because before it was one hen, now the hen has 2 chicks, so it makes it 3. Alright, my math is not so bad. 1 plus 1 plus 1. Wow, and it got me there. So we are at a very important part of a lesson, the part where we look at how much we have learned. I want you to take some time, look at these questions, answer the questions, and the answers are just below. Remember not to cheat yourselves. Alright, so I want you to continue studying so that you can show yourselves approved. I want you to like, click